Hey y'all, thanks for joining me for today's video. I've been sampling like crazy again. I think I have somewhere in the neighborhood of 17 or 18 fragrances to share with you that are newer on the market. I have a couple of, well, at least one brand new release and one that's new to Twisted Lily. I'll start off with two that were gifted in PR, and then we'll go into the samples that I purchased, and I will share with you my initial thoughts, first impressions, in some cases second impressions, and you know all of my disclaimers from past videos about the limitations of sampling, so keep that in mind as we go through today's video. So I got a notification that I had a package waiting for me at UPS, and I wondered, what have I ordered now that I forgot that I ordered? Because that happens to me a lot because I shop a lot online. So I went to pick up this box and wondered what it was, got home, opened it, and saw this very generous package from Commodity Fragrance for a fragrance that they are launching as of June 18th. I think I'm posting this video after then. So if you're seeing this after June 18th, this is available in Sephora and, on the Commodity website, of course. They were very sweet and sent me a handwritten note here about this. We couldn't be more thrilled to share with you our newest release in almost 3 years. Juice, this is called. Juicy. So I'd like to tell you about this fragrance and then the two travel sprays that they sent to me. If you're not familiar with Commodity as a house, they release their fragrances in 3 strengths, so to speak. There's a personal one. I think the next one is called Expressive, that's what this one is. And then there is a bold version. In this case, for this fragrance, they are pretty different. So I want to quickly go through some of the changes between the 3 that I noticed and that the notes will tell you. So all 3 of these fragrances took me by surprise because they have rhubarb, a pretty pronounced rhubarb in them. And I am not the biggest fan of rhubarb. And so had I not been sent these, I probably would not have been interested in these at all because of that note. But I will tell you, there is one of these that captured my heart. Another one I think I like. And then the third, I'm just not quite sure about. And it's maybe a no. The one I like the most it's called Scent Space Personal, Juice Personal, which is supposed to be the softest of the 3. I actually did not find this soft. I found this to have a nice scent bubble and lasted pretty long, at least on the scent strip, which is the place that I have tested this. I have not had a chance to do full wears on these. So keep that in mind in terms of your discernment about my review of these. So Juice Personal has the notes of the Expressive, which is the one in the middle, plus an added violet leaf note. Violet leaf for me is sort of purpley and has like some green tinges to it, in my opinion. The other notes that are in here then from the Expressive, so this is Expressive plus violet leaf, is strawberry, rhubarb, raspberry pulp with a base of amberwood. I found this fragrance to be quite alluring. It does have a pronounced rhubarb, and so that's something I have to be careful of because for me, rhubarb can be a little bit like headache-inducing and off-putting, but I like the way that it works in here. It's like tart and zingy. It almost feels to me like if you have smelled blood orange. It's like this intensely orange scent with this real tartness to it. It's like a pungent orange type of smell. That's a little bit of how rhubarb comes across to me and how it's coming across in here. And it's nice. There's something very fruity about this. I do get the woodiness in the background, but it's primarily like a really tart, happy juice. And I like it. I can see this being really great for here in the late spring as we go into summer and we get into warm weather. If you enjoy that sort of tart, rhubarby smell, check this out. Actually, now that I'm retrying these, I'm thinking maybe the Expressive is my favorite, which I'll talk about next. But I will say when I first opened the package a few days ago and sprayed them in my kitchen, this one caught my attention the most. Now that I'm trying it again and trying on skin, I think Juice Expressive is also quite delicious. And so again, those notes are, and I'm just going to read it from the little brochure that they sent along, Commodity sent along. It'll make your mouth water just thinking about it. Perfectly ripe strawberry, rhubarb, and that raspberry pulp blended with a smooth base of amberwood. And the thing that I'm liking about this is that the strawberry for me is coming across more pronounced in this, whereas here that rhubarb and purpley violet leaf greenness type of thing is maybe a little bit more pronounced here. So this might be a little bit fresher, greener, tartar for summer, whereas this is more in the just straight fruity direction with a sort of a warm woody base to it. And the strawberry is more pronounced here upon trying it. Again, I haven't done a full day wear. I don't know if it stays that way the whole way. I'll certainly let you all know as I sample this as the month goes on and I have an opportunity to really get to know it better. But this is lovely. So less tart than the personal, more heavy on the strawberry. And I like the concept of the raspberry pulp. I can sort of imagine that power of suggestion maybe, but if you think about berries kind of crushed up and they have this sort of freshness and this wateriness to them, a little bit of that here too. So I think this is a cool release and worth sniffing. And my assumption is that they will be out in Sephora to test, especially if you live near one of the big Sephora flagship stores where they typically have the new releases. This should be out there as well. And then let's talk about the bold one quickly. So I think the description for this one hits right on. In the brochure, it describes Juice Plus or Juice Bold as, and remember, it has the same notes as Expressive, which is the strawberry, rhubarb, raspberry, woodiness. This jammier rendition of Juice has been steeped in vetiver, patchouli, and amberwood. I'm not picking up patchouli. I'm not picking up patchouli per se. I do get that sort of hay-like vetiver, and I do understand what they mean by jammier. So we talked about, with this one, the raspberry pulp piece, like if you have mashed up berries and there's a wateriness to it, imagine you've actually taken the water out of your mashed up berries or drained them, and you're left with the pulpy part that is really juicy and dark and has the darker juices in it. That might be a little bit more of what you get in here. So yes, jammier for sure. But I would say now these are neck and neck. I think I'm going to go with Juice as my favorite. Follow closely behind with the Personal, and then in third place, Juice Plus, which is also quite nice. So thank you so much to Commodity for sending these over for testing. A really interesting release, worth checking out in my opinion. This next fragrance is not new on the market, but it is getting new hype on YouTube, and it is new to Twisted Lily. I am an affiliate with Twisted Lily. If you're interested in shopping there, they carry a lot of really cool niche brands, and you can use Veronica10, my code, for 10% off site-wide. And the fragrance that they sent me to try is from Fugazzi, and it's called Angel Dust. When I first tried this, I thought this is nice, but not a big deal. Let me put this aside and come back to it. So remember, it's summertime. As fragrances get to you in the mail, they've been jostled around. This one was actually kind of warm when I sprayed it on, like it was still warm from being in the box out in the heat. Now that it's had a chance to chill out, calm down, I feel very differently about this. And let me say, it's been compared to another 13. I'm going to visit another 13 from Le Labo in another video. That is one that I ended up buying a 5 ml from Scent Split and taking with me on a work trip and kind of dousing myself in it and getting to know that, because so many people love it that I was like, what is up with another 13 and why can't I smell that? I can see how people associate this with another 13. As I'm getting to know that fragrance more, that sort of molecular, light, airy, woody thing came out on my skin. And I was like, okay, I think I get why people are enjoying this and consider it sort of fresh, airy, clean, second skin nature. This is similar and, dare I say, even a little bit sexier than another 13, because this feels to me like a cashmere sweater with a hint of citrus. And citrus, although people don't associate citrus with being sexy, when it's paired with woods, there's something about that combination that I think is kind of alluring for other people. The sort of fresh attractiveness of that combination, I think people really enjoy. This also has a little bit of musk and some pepperiness, particularly in the dry down. The pepper is very light. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of heavy, pepper in fragrances. So I like that it's just nicely done here. This reminds me a lot of the impression that I get of like old school Victoria's Secret body sprays, where it felt intimate, it felt sort of sexy, it felt like something you would spray on your lingerie or your bed sheets or something to set the mood so that you had a nice, light, airy scent and not something overwhelming. I think this is a really attractive fragrance, and I would not hesitate, even though I just described it as something for like the boudoir, I would not hesitate to wear this to a work event at all. I think it's nicely light wearing, second skin, very cozy. Like I said, that sort of very pale, light woodiness with that airy aspect to it. It doesn't smell musky, even though it has musky, even though it has musk in it. Okay, so think like a light woodiness and that light citrus, and then just something warm and peppery. There's amber in the fragrance, but warm and peppery. So this is a winner. I'm going to give this a big thumbs up and say that if you pick it up, spray it, give it a chance to settle down, and then come back to it in a couple of days and try it again like I did. Fugazzi, Angel Dust. Thank you to Twisted Lily for sending this over to me to try out. So I'm going to get into the fragrances that I sampled. I will try to do these fairly quickly. Again, these are first impressions. I haven't done full day wears on any of these. I've sprayed on paper. I've sprayed on skin to just kind of test the two. And here's what I have to say about them. We're going to kick off with M. Micallef Eau Feminin. Feminin? So YouTube, social media has gone bananas over this fragrance. A lot of people love it. And I have to say, when I tried it, I was a little bit surprised that this was getting such rave reviews. I do think it is a nice fragrance, but it's not the experience for me that other people described. Again, just sampling. It gave me a musky green citrus and some savory herbs in the opening. No one has described it that way. Everyone has described it as just this gorgeous orange blossom heavy fragrance. I mean, what I've heard is you have to love orange blossom to try this or you're not going to like it. And I do love orange blossom, but that wasn't what I got on this fragrance in the opening. I will say that opening was softened up by florals and a woody base. I'm looking at my notes here. For me, I would describe it as something in the neighborhood of Sintra from Memo. That combined with Princess from Kilian, that was about the vibe that I got, except maybe slightly drier than those two fragrances. But there was something in this fragrance that for me felt a little bit bitter that just didn't sit right with me. Again, that was just a sample. Sometimes full bottle experiences are different. I can see why people love it, but I don't understand the description of it as an orange blossom fragrance because that wasn't what I got, at least not primarily. So this was in the 6 to 7 range if I had to give it a score between 1 to 10. Not a fragrance I would seek out. I do want to try it again if I'm in store somewhere and see a bottle. I do want to spray from the bottle to see, is it a different experience? Moving next to Ella K. This is my first try at an Ella K fragrance. I know there are some others from this brand that are getting a lot of hype right now. I tried Orchid K. And I like this a lot. This was a thumbs up. I found this to be a warm, softly floral fragrance. And for me, it was pink in color. Like in my mind's color eye was pink, like peony. The fragrance of peony, the smell of a peony flower came up for me, or at least how peony shows up in fragrances. This was musky and ambery and smooth in the base, very comforting, very suave, really nice round edges to it, like sort of very nicely done. It felt sophisticated and warm, and there was something motherly about it to me. And so this is one I have my eye on. I think the bottle is blue. Is that right? If I remember correctly, I haven't looked at the reviews in a long time, but I've got my eye on this fragrance. I like it. I think it's a me fragrance. There was something sweet in the base of it too that was very attractive to me. Sweet, ambery, musky, warm, enveloping, mature, feminine hug in a bottle. Oh, and I gave the fragrance I rated it at an 8, which is very high for me. Then a fragrance I was hoping to love because I like others from the line. This is from Rosendo Mateu, and it's number 8. I did give this a 6, which in my book is a good score. And I don't think this is for me, but I do want to give it credit for what it is. I found it to be very sweet and fruity, at least in my sampling experience. And it was like this airy sponge sugar effect that it had for me. I picked up something in the direction of apples and pears and honeydew melons. So that was like bright and fun. And then it had this wispy, musky undercarriage. There was something about it that kind of fell a little flat for me in terms of a summery fragrance that is fruity and airy. I wanted it to be a little bit more. Again, this is one that I would love to maybe sample more, perhaps buy a bigger decant or a travel spray because there were attractive aspects to it, but it wasn't quite the showstopper that I was hoping that it was. So I have to kind of temper my expectations of that one and try it again. But I do give it a 6 and found it interesting, just not one that kind of like compelled me to think about purchasing it on sampling. Have you tried this one? I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. I've heard really great reviews on it. So I would be very, very willing to try this one again and see if I have a different experience. Then, did you all know that there's a new Oud for Greatness on the market? It's called Neo, a flanker of Oud for Greatness, rather. And there's not much to say about this, so I'm not going to spend a long time on this. This is not for me. The original Oud for Greatness is about as masculine as I would like to go for a full day wear. I mean, I'll try anything, on skin, overnight, whatever. But in terms of me like going out into the world and presenting with a fragrance, I have sort of this tolerance of how far into masculine territory I'm willing to go before I feel like the fragrance is probably just not me, like expressing parts of my personality well. And this is in that direction. So this is for me lighter and more green of a fragrance than the original. So imagine the original with some of the heft of it toned down and a little bit of greenness kind of interwoven. And there were some more masculine aspects to this. It's something I would absolutely love to smell on my husband. I think it would be great on his skin chemistry, but I don't think that this is one that I would be interested in exploring further, but it was fun to try. And that's, friends, that is most of the sampling thing for me. I can't buy every fragrance out there. I want to. And as you can see, I go a little crazy sometimes with my fragrance purchases. But I do have limits and I know what my budget is and I stick to that very strictly. And this is just not for me interesting enough to put in my budget for my personal taste. But I give it credit for what it is. And if you're a guy out there or someone who really enjoys more heavily masculine fragrances, definitely check this out. It's pretty darn good. Then we'll go next to one from Gallivant. This is a house I haven't tried in a long time. I had a discovery set from them a long time ago. And I had a fragrance, I think it was called Istanbul, which was nice, a nice sort of spicy market type of fragrance. This one is called Nida or Nida, Nida. And this was nice. It opened green and spicy and zingy, in my opinion. And then it settled quickly into what I called a citrus, purple floral, and almost vanillic ambery base. So I think the dry down of this fragrance for me is perhaps more compelling and interesting than the opening. However, I have fragrances that have this sort of vanillic ambery base with florals in them, and that I don't know that I'm interested in purchasing this. I will say the bottle for this is very pretty. If you don't have anything like this in your collection, this is a great one to pick up. Gallivant is a fun house. The lead perfumer and owner of the house, I don't know if he's a perfumer or just the owner, but I've seen interviews with him. Really, really nice guy. And I love the concept of so many of these fragrances representing his travels, places he's seen and been. So it's an interesting story to the house. And if you're tired of the same old houses, Gallivant isn't one that gets a lot of hype on social media, but one that's definitely worth checking out for the interesting selections that they have. So I give this a thumbs up, although maybe not something that I am rushing to add to my collection at the moment, but it's good. Yeah, it's got a warm, cozy, enveloping vanillic ambery base that I think it's lovely. I shared in my best new releases of 2024, sort of a mid-year stock take on what's come out on the market in 2024 that I've tried and that I love. And I gave you all 10 in an honorable mention in that video. And one of the ones that showed up is, I still don't know how to pronounce it. Is it Sirene? I don't know. From Fragrance du Bois. This is magnificent. I gave this an 8.5. I must really love it. And perhaps by the time you see this video, it will have gone into cart and come to my house. I'm thinking of purchasing it from Harrods and breaking my no overseas rule for purchasing fragrances, because I think I can get a better deal at Harrods than anywhere in the US market right now. However, if you have seen it on sale, please do drop it in the comments. This had this very luscious, decadent, thick, creamy, sweet cherry candy opening that I thought was just so alluring and sexual and sexy. I was going to say sensy. Fancy. Isn't it funny on social media, like on Instagram and so forth? I guess people get flagged for writing the word sexy, and so they write seg-sy, S-E-G-G-S-Y. Like, it's not funny. We're all adults. Can't write the word sexy. I do understand why it gets flagged. I'm just being silly about that. But anyway, it was a little slightly smoky in the opening, like just a hint. You wouldn't even really like think of it. Well, I guess if you're not used to that, that might feel pronounced to you. For me, it was very slight. And it has this heavy amber, slightly even like oudy base, super soft round edges. It stays creamy for the duration of the fragrance, and the very deep dry down, it maybe starts to go more into like a lighter milky territory. But I thought that this was a plush, opulent fragrance, very evening in nature, very date night, super beautiful. And I love the bottle. And at some point, this will be in my collection. 8.5, maybe 9, maybe 10 by the time I wear it. We shall see. I haven't been able to do a full day wear, just sampling, because I had a small sample of this one. Then I didn't have a good experience with this next sample. And I almost blind bought this bottle. One of the cases for sampling first, even though it can be expensive to sample a lot. This is Pannaco Tahaa from Fomowa, Paris. This was such a rancid experience for me. This fragrance felt like such a hot mess to my nose. I can see how people pick up this mango creaminess. I think it's supposed to be like a panna cotta. Is that right? I was going to say terracotta, but that's not a food. Panna cotta with mango. So like creamy, deep mango thing. Unfortunately, there is something in this fragrance that feels so green and plasticky and offensive to me. I smelled this and recoiled. I was like, what the hell are people talking about? How do people love this? And why am I having such a different experience? I tested it on skin. I put it on a blotter. My husband tried it. My kids tried it, and everyone was like, ooh, what is that? And it wasn't that the sample was bad. The sample's perfectly fine. I know when a sample or a fragrance juice or whatever has gone off. That has very specific sort of tones and smells to it. No, I don't know what's going on with this, and I'm not sure why it's making top lists for summer mangoes and fruity fragrances and whatever. Do you have this? Do you love it? Am I offending you right now? With my interpretation and experience with it. For me, this was a green, sharp mango. That's what I wrote. Question mark, question mark, question mark, like aggressive question marks. Green, sharp mango. I remember when I first tried Mango Skin from Wilhelm Parfumerie, I had this sort of same experience. Although that one, I eventually could tell, I could see why people like this and appreciate the sort of very green mango aspects of that. This fragrance, oh, this offended me so badly. It felt like almost like a freshly picked mango that was picked too soon, and that sort of green mango aspect, but like super intensified into kryptonite form. Like if it was taken like a gallon of it and kind of crushed down into the core essences of a green mango, and that was amplified. I hated this so much. In the end, it felt like plastic and rotten apricots. I'm sorry. This is not for me. If you love it, I love it for you. For me, in my experience, I'm rating this somewhere in the 4 range, and that's being generous because I can see if people aren't picking up that overly green aspect, I could see how people like it. If they're getting more the mango creamy side, then hey, I get it. So that's what I have to say about that. Please, let's move on. I'm ready. Then House of Oud released Guilty Crush. This wasn't even on my radar. I forget how I found this. It showed up somewhere and I was like, oh, what is this? I don't like this bottle. In fact, some of the latest releases from the House of Oud, the bottles border on super like gaudy and tacky. And for me, this one is gaudy and tacky. The fragrance itself, even though I dislike the bottle, I give it a 6-7 range for the fragrance. This was actually really nice. It's this fruity, creamy airiness with a powdery aspect. You need to like powder and fruitiness together. That has to be attractive to you to get into this fragrance. In the dry down, this was very perfumey and purple floral to me. Like think irises and violets and those types of things deep into the dry down. This was nice. This was pleasant. If it was gifted to me, if I ended up with like a travel spray of this, I would certainly wear it and enjoy it. So the fragrance gets a thumbs up. The bottle, I don't know about that. Do you like the bottle? Let's talk about it in the comments. And then again, forgive me for the pronunciation if I ruin this. Nota or Nota, Nota Suga or Sugar. I'm going with not a sugar, not a sugar, sugar. Nota Suga, something. Ulyka Parfum. This has been recommended to me. Someone out there recommended to me, and I think this is making the rounds also. I did like this. I have a lot of fragrances like this, so it's not one that I would consider picking up. But I would say it definitely has some merit to it. And if you enjoy fragrances that are both tropical and gourmand, definitely give this one a sniff. It's a little strong for what it is. It opens up like a caramel chew. I got that sort of sensation in my mouth as I sniffed it. I didn't taste the fragrance. I didn't put it in my mouth. But you know, your mouth sort of salivates for some fragrances, or you get the sense of what, if it was in like a food form, what it would taste like. I mean, have you ever gotten a spray of actual perfume in your mouth? It's disgusting. So I'm not suggesting that, but you know what I mean? Like your olfactory imagination can drum up, what would this smell like or taste like rather if it was a food? And so caramel chew pretty heavily in the opening. I did find that this, as it continued to develop, it had, like I wrote down mega sweetness, mega, like very, very sweet fragrance, super creamy. It stayed caramelly. And then as it began to dry down, this chewy kind of thick vanilla thing enters the room. It enters the chat, and it's in for me in the mid and the dry down where you get more of that tart, sweet hit from the pineapple notes. This has been described as a pineapple fragrance. For me, it is more gourmand than it is pineapple. I mean, anything that's like a fruit or whatever, I guess technically you could consider gourmand. But when we think of gourmand, we usually think of like desserty types of fragrances. So this is more dessert to me than it is pineapple. So the pineapple adds on top of that, maybe in the way that like it does for like a pineapple upside down cake or something. I'm not interested in this. I have plenty of other beautiful summer fragrances, including, is it back there? Oh my God, I think I have officially moved my Miami Nectar over to the shelves in the bedroom to be used more frequently. But I could have that and others. But this isn't about me. This is about you. And I give this a thumbs up to check out. For what it is, I would give it probably like a 7. It's strong. Just know that when you try it, it's like a really strong, sweet fragrance. So yeah, I could see why people love this. And then moving along, I have this slight fantasy obsession with the House of Floraiku. I want all of the bottles, all the bottles. In fact, so I have a video here that my husband and I did a few years ago at this point. Very cheesy video. Feel free to check it out on Floraiku. And we did, I think it was like their flowers collection, if I remember that one, but I ordered a separate collection from Twisted Lily to try out because that collection has Young at Heart in it, which one of you lovely folks told me has a strong watermelon note. I can't wait to try that. But I didn't want to like blind buy the fragrance and pay $3.50 if the watermelon wasn't what I was looking for. You know, I'm on like this watermelon quest. But I'm obsessed with Floraiku and trying as many as possible. This is a newer release called Spring River. I haven't seen anyone talk about this except one person, and she thought it wasn't worth picking up. And I can understand why. So I just want to be fair to this fragrance. If you have tried the Blue Dial soap, and I think it's called something River, like Clean River, Spring Shower, Spring Rain, something like that, but it's the blue one, the Blue Dial soap. It gave me a lot of that clean blue soap, watery type of feeling. This is very soft. It's very understated. It has that sort of fresh spring water or waterfall type of smell. Again, it reminds me of the recent experience with Steamed Rainbow from DS and Durga, where you get like that misty waterfall vapor in the air smell, like that freshness. This has that. But it is a little bit nondescript in the sense that it's so sort of soft that for the price tag, I could see people passing on this. But I give Floraiku a pass on its softness because those bottles are so dang gorgeous. I give this fragrance probably a 6 for what it's attempting to convey, a spring river, that sort of freshness that comes off of a river from the water flowing as you're near it. And it has a little bit of soapiness to it, and it's nice. So that's my thoughts there. I'm going to talk about 2 Maison Crivelli fragrances next. I don't know why I continue to try this house. I had not the best experience with some of my previous sampling. I liked Iris Malakon, and I may revisit that. I didn't at the time think enough of it to pay the full retail price, but it is beautiful. I tried Hibiscus Mahajad, which I think is just overwhelming for me. I can see why people think it's beautiful. It is just too much for me. And I tried, was it Oud Maracuja? Does that ring a bell? Hold on, now I gotta look it up. Yeah, that's it, Oud Maracuja. And I remember that one like blew my wig off. I don't have a wig, but and not in a good way. That was a hot no for me. Like a hot, fast, furious hell no for me. But Tubereuse Astrale or Astrale, I recently tried and I was fully prepared to dislike it, and I did not. I actually like this. So I give this a lot of credit for what it is. It was for me a warm, very spicy tuberose. I feel like this fragrance smelled like leather as it started to develop. There was this nice, soft, smooth, like almost like a warm, creamy leather and men's skin, like how my husband's skin smells so good as he has moved around in the day. He has sort of like his own natural, very light male, almost like a sweet musk that that's a little intimate, sorry, that I adore, like his skin. His skin, his body. So it's like that. It felt pungent to me though as a fragrance. It had a really great dry down. So that's where you get that sort of light male musky skin with the soft buttery leather, and the spicy tuberose still stays throughout the fragrance. This is a winner. I probably won't be picking up a bottle of this because I have similar fragrances. In fact, I am wearing today Quattro Pizzi from Xerjoff, which is really growing on me. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. And I have other spicy tuberoses. And this is one I would probably wait to see if it went on sale and then consider purchasing. But if you like the idea of this, I give this a strong thumbs up. It is strong. And for me, it is more of a fall and winter type of fragrance, cold weather, than it would be appropriate for warm weather. It might be a little bit like overpowering and much in warm weather. And I tried Santal Volcanique. What a cool name. From the same house. And this is also very nice. This is a spicy sandalwood. It has this sort of zingy, gingery aspect in the opening and in the mid. The dry down I found to be nicer. The opening of this was a little bit harsh on the spicy aspects. I mean, at first I was like, ooh, I don't know why people like this. Where's my little strip here? But as it dried down, the appeal came to me. I was like, I can see why people like this. I will say though that this also has a little bit of a leathery aspect in the dry down. Does anyone else get that? So for me, this is a fairly masculine fragrance, and you have to be someone that enjoys those kinds of sandalwoody, leathery, spicy fragrances. I don't think leather is listed as a note, but there's certainly something in that direction in here. This is really pretty. Well, excuse me, not pretty. It's a very handsome, handsome fragrance in the male direction, and something I'd love to smell on my husband. I finally got to try via Cavour I, the first. Primero from Xerjoff. I did a Xerjoff focused video. At the time that you see this, it would have been, I guess, a week and a half ago or so. And a lot of you mentioned this in the comments. I've seen a few other reviewers rave about Via Cavour. This is one that I would probably explore as we got into the fall and the winter, along with Just from Andrea Mac, which I talked about in a previous new fragrances video. They both have a chocolate aspect. This one is a little bit different than Just. We'll get back to Just in a few months when I'm sort of in the mood for that kind of fragrance. This one here, it was a very smooth chocolate. For me, this was almost like a creamy milk chocolate. The image that I got in my mind, if you've seen chocolate fountains where they have milk chocolate sort of spread out over this sort of umbrella and you can kind of dip your fruit into it, like your strawberries into it. It gave me that sort of smell and feeling, like this velvety, smooth chocolate that is so nicely accompanied by this ambery, vanilla, warm, cozy, sexy base. In the opening of this fragrance, you do get some creamy, fruity aspects, and that continues into the mid, but in the deep dry down, it is that sort of really delicious, creamy milk chocolate. It's not a super pronounced chocolate. Okay, so it does have like this perfumey aspect to it, but that is what I picture, that like milk chocolate smoothness alongside the vanilla and the amber. And this is nice. This is nice. I'm not rushing out to get this. I went through this sort of chocolate era maybe a couple of falls ago, not this past fall, but the fall before, if I remember, and enjoyed them. I've since sold off or passed along a lot of my chocolates. And so you have to be in the mood for chocolate to wear it, but this is nice. I can see why people love this. I give this a big thumbs up, and I would probably give this somewhere in the 7.5-ish range, maybe pushing up into 8 because it's so nicely done. Very smooth, smooth fragrance. Then I also tried from Thameen Chords. This is something I would love to smell on my husband. This is a smooth, very sexy, smooth leather with male skin. Again, if you think about like that warm, musky male scent, you know, like if you nuzzle into your guy's neck and there's a certain sort of warmth there, that plus leather, it's like a buttery, creamy leather. This is a beautiful fragrance, but it is very masculine. If you don't like masculine fragrances, don't bother with this. This is one, I could see a lady pulling this off because it's very, very sexy. It's very sexy, and one that I would consider gifting this to my husband for Christmas. Beautiful fragrance, nicely lasting. It smells just as beautiful on this strip now, 2 days after testing it, as it did when I first tried it. I haven't like resprayed this, and it's just as beautiful, long lasting, strong. Like from that sense, worth every penny if you want your high dollar fragrances to give you protection and longevity and sillage and all of the performance things. Yeah, this is one to check out. This is one to check out. I'll round out this video by talking about Powder Vanilla from Matiere. Hold on a second. Let me get it together. Matiere Premier. Matiere Premier. This is a bomb of a fragrance, and it's not what the name implies. You think about powder vanilla, you think of sort of this light, airy, wispy, powdery vanilla, like a cloud of vanilla. No, this is mega dense and thick. Like it sits low in the atmosphere. It's not light, wispy, cloud-like. It is a thick thundercloud. Like big, thick thunder thighs of vanilla, and there's coconut in the fragrance. To me, it just sort of shows up in a very sort of dry, dense way. I would not pick coconut out as a note contributing to this fragrance structure if you hadn't told me that it has coconut. I would say there's something really creamy and dense in it. This feels to me, this came across as a very strong, like buttery, cakey vanilla cake. If you've ever smelled cooked green plantains, I'm not talking about the sweet plantains that are so delicious and melt in your mouth. I'm talking about if you're from the Caribbean or have visited and tried tostones, and that is your green plantains that get mushed down and fried deep. They have this starchy kind of green tone to them sometimes in the smell. there's something like that in the background of this fragrance that makes me not want to wear it. And I hate that for it and for me. It does have a vanilla and sandalwood base to it, but I can't get over that cooked plantain smell, the hard starchy plantains, and I don't want to smell like a plátano. I just don't. So this is going to be a pass for me. I can see why people love it, especially if they don't associate that plantain smell with it. Maybe it works for them. Let me know your thoughts on these fragrances. It is totally okay if you hate some of the ones that I loved, and it's totally fine if you love some of the ones that I hate. It's okay. We all have different tastes, and it's fun to just hear people's thoughts and opinions, and yours are appreciated and welcomed in the comments. So I hope you enjoyed this review of very many new fragrances. I would urge you definitely to check some of these out, and just know that by the time this video posts, this juice lineup should be on the commodity website and in Sephora for sale, test, whatever, and you can certainly try out using travel sprays first if you don't want to commit to a full bottle. Thanks again for joining me, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, friends.